I counted 7 deadly sins D&D players keep committing when writing their backstories that ruin their games. I've been playing D&D for over 20 years and committed all of them, but also learned a lot along the way. So today I'm telling you all about them, but also showing you how to fix them one by one by taking a mighty chosen hero with all these 7 sins and turning it into an incredible character so you never fall into these traps again. Alright, so we'll jump straight to sin 1 in just a second, but you need to know the guy we're gonna fix today first. This is Edariad. He is a level 1 human paladin. His noble bloodline was wiped out in a single night, so he smuggled to safety as a child and then was raised by a legendary swordmaster. And with him, he lived through many adventures. He would be awesome as a protagonist of some novel, but as we're gonna see in a minute, as a D&D character, his backstory is not so great. But why though? Well, let's start with something you might have already noticed. Before starting the campaign, Edariad killed a young dragon with his legendary master. But he is level 1. He has, like 12 hit points? If we trust the rules at least a little bit, a couple of goblins with pointy sticks could end this guy in just a few seconds. So this is our first sin, the level 1 dragon slayer. It's when you create a backstory that describes feats your character could never actually perform. And sure, maybe some of you are thinking, well, maybe he got cursed and lost his powers. And right, but isn't that a bit cliche? I think the fix is actually simpler. Don't describe your character's peak, and instead focus on their potential. Let's say you absolutely want to keep the dragon thing. Well, maybe your character didn't slay the dragon, but survived an encounter with one. Like maybe he distracted it for a while, or just saw one up close and barely made it out. This is a level 1 character, and that's still the kind of thing that changes a person. But now, the level 1 does not feel wrong anymore. Your backstory should be the reason you're going on an adventure. So it does not work very well if it says you're already so strong that you don't need to. But even if you get the power level right, that doesn't mean you're saved. Because your D&D character is important to you, so you'll likely spend quite some time writing their backstory, thinking about every detail, choosing your words carefully, etc. But if you then send it to the one person it was meant for, aka the DM, and they never read it, not because they didn't care, but maybe because they just didn't have the time, you will get frustrated when nothing you wrote comes up in the game. It happens all the time with D&D backstories, so much so that it's our second scene, and I decided to call it the novella nobody reads. It's when the players write 5, 10, or sometimes even 20 pages, and then the DM doesn't read them. And both sides get very frustrated. In our example, Edariad's backstory is so detailed because he lived through so many adventures that it's 12 pages long. So maybe it's well written and has a lot of emotional depths and everything, but the DM has 4 other players who also sent backstories, and he's a DM, so he also has to do session prep and remind everyone to bring their dice, and books, and sheets. If everyone's backstory is that long, the DM will have to read 60 pages before they can even start planning their session. But don't DMs love reading? They play a game where you need to read hundreds of pages of rules to get started, so what, they're gonna give up for 60 pages? Well, the problem is, the DM, like the players, wants to play the game. They don't want to feel like there's extra homework to do. It's also a bit scary when you get backstories that are too long, because it implicitly tells you that there's a risk that this player will think about their character more than the rest of the group, and this can lead to many other problems. I believe a backstory should feel more like a pitch. One summary sentence and a few usable details. Like this. Edariad is a divine-touched paladin from a fallen noble house, seeking purpose after surviving a dragon attack that scattered his order. That's a single, powerful sentence that the DM can read in 5 seconds, and that will have them start to think about how to use it. Under that sentence, we can write a page of important details like living NPCs related to the character, open questions, hooks the DM can grab, etc. And this can go wrong too, so we'll get to those in a second. But the point is, if your DM can't absorb your backstory in 5 minutes, it starts to feel like homework. But even a short backstory can be completely useless if you make this one specific mistake. Just before I tell you what it is, I just wanted to let you know that I made a free cheat sheet called The 7 Deadly Sins of Character Creation. It covers the other mistakes to avoid when creating a D&D character that are not necessarily backstory related. So just Click the link in the description to get it. Alright, so let's keep going. Let's say you take all the advice I've been giving you so far. You shorten your character backstory, make sure it makes sense considering their power level, etc. Your DM reads it. Congratulations. But now they put it down and think, what do I do with this? Because maybe your backstory is now short, but in the process, you might have accidentally resolved every conflict inside it. That's our third deadly sin. No hooks, no knives. And it gives me an excuse to share a concept that I think might be one of the most useful tools to use in this hobby. I believe backstory elements exist so the DM can use them to raise personal stakes and make the story more intense. When you come up with the backstory, you forge the knives and you hand them to the DM so they can stab you with them down the line. So your mentor, your hometown, your rivals, etc. are all knives. A backstory without knives feels useless quickly to the person reading it, because this is a game, so everything needs to be useful to play. So Edariad needs a few knives. I think he does have a mentor. Maybe he's not that legendary. He has a bit of a hero worship situation going on. And that mentor did disappear. But who killed them? Did he really die? We don't know, and maybe he is from a fallen kingdom, but there are surviving loyalists somewhere. That way, we give the DM opportunities to surprise us. They don't have to use all the knives. It does not have to be the main plot, but this will make the world a lot more immersive. So now I know some of you are probably thinking, oh, awesome, my backstory has hooks. I have dead parents and come from a destroyed village, so I'm good, right? Well, I'm afraid it's a bit more complicated than that. Let's go back to Edariad's backstory. We implied that his entire bloodline was killed in a single night, and that the mentor he found later on disappeared as well. And that sounds like lots of emotional material. So why isn't it great? Well, the answer is quite simple. If everyone's dead, drama has nowhere to go. This is sin number 4. Your hooks are all dead. Every time you kill something or someone in your backstory, you're making it a little bit harder for the DM to use those as hooks. Because dead parents can explain why you're adventuring. Sure, it gives your character some motivation. But motivation is not really story fuel. A dead mentor or parent will mostly motivate once when you start the adventure. And sure, you can always seek revenge, but it's a bit one-dimensional. But if the parent is alive and just gone, or if the mentor joined the enemy, for example, now we're back to the knives thing, and the DM can twist them for however many sessions you play through. So how does that look like for our paladin? So far we had dead parents, mentor, and order. What if the mentor is simply missing and was never confirmed dead? And maybe his mom survived at the last minute but went into hiding, but didn't tell him where, because him knowing would mean he could be captured and forced to reveal her location. We still have emotional weight and loss here, but now the DM can work with this. It can turn into clues, other NPCs like allies of those peoples, etc, etc. I'm not saying you should never kill people in your backstory, but if an NPC matters enough to be in it, they can probably be very useful alive in your campaign too. Alright, so we've fixed quite a few things already, but what if I told you that there's a whole category of sins that happen before you even start writing? By the way, if you've ever committed one of these sins and find this video helpful, please attack the like button with your most powerful ability to help it reach more people and create better games for everyone. Okay, so just imagine you show up to session 1 with your backstory, and because you mean well, it's short, has hooks, plenty of live NPCs for the DM to use, etc, etc. But then your DM starts talking and says, right, so as you know, there are no gods in this setting. What? This is our 5th sin, built in the wrong universe. The god thing is just an example here. Sometimes people create characters in complete isolation, totally ignoring the DM's world. I'm not just talking about lore details. It can also be a total mismatch, like making a comedy character in a grimdark campaign, for example. Eventually, you're going to be playing with a character, which means it's going to be fun for you and for everyone else as well. So your backstory needs to fit that specific campaign. And this is the one sin where the fix is a conversation, really. You ask your DM about their world and the tone of the campaign and adjust accordingly. So let's say we did ask for Edariad and our DM told us that the campaign is going to be a bit lighthearted. More than what we had in mind, anyway. Adventure will be front and center, and the heavy stuff will feel a bit out of place if it's too present. So we don't have to change everything, but we just adjust the texture a little bit. Maybe Edariad didn't heroically survive the dragon attack and had to hide under a cart and got lucky. He's not proud of it, and he actually fears people will find out eventually. And I think it would be funny if his mother was actually staying in a small cottage with her best friend in the village next to their castle. She has a hat of disguise but is superstitious and thinks seeing her son again might stop it from working. The meat of the backstory stays the same, but it has a slightly more comedic tone to it now, and it would fit that specific table better. But even if you take the world into consideration when you come up with the backstory, there's one sin that might wreck everything, and the worst part is that it comes from the best intentions. So for this part, we'll pretend to be in Edariad's player's head for a minute. Look at the backstory one more time. Edariad is a paladin, but was also chosen by his god. He is also the rightful heir to that fallen kingdom we were talking about. Now, imagine you're another player at this table. Say you made a halfling rogue who grew up on the streets, or a ranger who just really likes the woods. How do you feel standing next to the chosen one who is also secret royalty? What space can you occupy? This is the main character sin, where your backstory puts you at the center of the universe, making everyone else seem less important by comparison. Prophecies, unique artifacts, etc. all fall into this category. And I get it. It doesn't really feel like a sin when you're writing it. You just love stories, and epic ones are cool. In fiction, there's a protagonist. Frodo carries the ring, and Aragorn is the secret king, etc., etc. But this is not a book or a movie. This is D&D, which is a game, and fundamentally a group activity. And I think this is why this one is so painful. You've seen or read thousands of stories in your life. You start playing a game where they tell you that you can do everything, because unlike in video games, there are no edges to the world. So, when you sit down to write a backstory, you instinctively write something where your character is that protagonist you're so familiar with. I don't think it's an ego thing, but more of a habit thing. And the problem is, even if the other players don't particularly mind, it will heavily destabilize the story, because the DM now has one player whose backstory is screaming, "Build the campaign around me." And therefore, the campaign will almost inevitably start to orbit around it. Every player at the table needs to be the main character of their own story. Your backstory doesn't need to make you the most important person in the room, but to make you an interesting person to share the room with. So, instead of being a chosen one with a cosmic destiny, etc., what if Edariad had a connection to his god that he doesn't fully understand yet? It might be divine, or maybe something else. He doesn't know, and maybe neither does the DM. It could be a good excuse for one level dip into Warlock down the road, or something entirely different. This makes things more reasonable, less like Edariad is the center of the universe. He's just a person with unanswered questions, and he will be able to explore those during play with the other characters as they explore their own. So yeah, forget prophecies and spend more time on questions. And this brings us to the sin that might make all the others feel trivial in comparison. So let's imagine this is session 14 now. The party has been through a lot and the campaign is well underway. Edariad's player starts talking. Guys, I have something to tell you. Everyone looks around, confused, even the DM. I'm actually the rightful heir to the throne of... Oh, but, didn't we establish your kingdom was gone? Unor. What? What's Unor? This is the secret reveal nobody cares about. Sometimes, players hide backstory from the party, or even the DM, hoping for a dramatic reveal that almost always falls flat. I've seen this go down 3 different ways. Blank stares, people don't understand. Anger, like, why didn't you say something when we're in that kingdom? Or might have been cool to discuss this with me, if that's from the DM. Or just awkward silence, when it's so obvious that, in fact, no, this is not true. Look, secrets are cool, reveals are cool too, but, and it's a big but, I cannot lie. For them to work, you need to work with the DM early on and to build towards it. So how do we fix this for Edariad? First, the DM needs to know everything. Don't fight me on this. You need to share the secret in advance so the DM can actually build toward the moment and tell you if it's even possible. But there's a second thing you need to make sure of that I think is easy to miss. A good reveal isn't new information from nowhere. There's always a deeper layer of something the table already knows and cares about. In our example, the party already knows Edariad's family lost everything, and that he has this weird connection to his god he can't really explain. So the reveal isn't a surprise, I'm actually from another kingdom, but his god has been losing power, and his connection is to one of his divine lieutenants, who actively conspired against the noble house. Now, the twist recontextualizes something the table has been living with for a long time, which is a lot more exciting. So, we started this experiment with a long backstory, telling the story of a secret heir chosen one dragon slayer dude, with everyone dead and a random hidden secret. And now we have the same character, but that will actually contribute to the fun of everyone at the table. I think all 7 sins kind of come from the same place. We bring our storytelling instinct to the D&D table and forget we should be building a tool to help everyone have more fun. Your backstory isn't the first chapter in your character's novel, but the setup for a game that hasn't been played yet. So next time you write a backstory, just read it back. Ask yourself, can my DM use this? And if the answer is no, rewrite it using the techniques we discussed in this video. And if you're a DM, don't just hope your players will figure it out. Share this with them and tell them what you need. But okay, now you know what not to put in the backstory. But there's a question underneath all of this that most players never think to ask. And it's so powerful that it can make your next character 10 times better. So click on this video next to find out what it is.